purpose, you got fire. He's the spark that lifts you higher. You were made for joy, made for more. It's time to walk through heaven's door. The world is yours, take your place. Every dream aligned with grace. Overflow is your reward. Walk it out, abundance is yours. Oh, you can change it every time. Hope and faith, they realign. You're not stuck, not anymore. 'Cause girl, abundance is yours.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Divine Abundance. Julie and I today are talking about something that almost every one of us will experience, and probably more than once.
Yep.
The pivot, right? The pivot, guys. That moment where something inside of you says that this just isn't working for me anymore. I've outgrown this, right? I don't know exactly what's next, but I know that I can't keep doing this. And I'm sure that we can all relate. So here's what makes pivoting so interesting is that sometimes you choose the pivot and sometimes the pivot chooses you. Ouch, right? So Julie, which one do you think is harder?
I think, Elena, honestly, it's a little bit easier when you choose the pivot because you are in the mindset of like, okay, this isn't working, whatever it is, whether it's your career, your business, your relationship, a friendship, whatever it is, and you're actually making the choice for that pivot. I think it's a little bit harder when life throws us a pivot that we really weren't expecting. I think that becomes much more challenging.
Yes. And so that's what we're going to explore today. So I'm excited about this, not just how to survive that change, right? Because I know that we've all been through it, but how to recognize when change might actually be inviting you into something bigger. And then that's when it gets exciting. So as we have people joining us from wherever you're tuning in from, as you catch us, put in the comments, have you ever made a major pivot in your life? If you have, type yes. And if you're feel like you're standing on one right now, let us know. Drop pivot down in there, right? So Julie, before we get into our stories, let's figure out where everyone is. Now, I know you created the pre-pivot assessment to help answer one question. Am I uncomfortable or am I actually ready for change?
Right.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this pre-pivot assessment, this is sometimes what I do when we're working with clients, whether it's on the financial side or in my coaching practice, where you feel like maybe you're either uncomfortable or maybe it truly is time for a pivot. It's a way for you to take an inventory of what really direction you should head with this. So we created the pre-pivot assessment, and there's two ways we could go at this. I think the latter way that we talked about, Elena, might make the most sense, where you and I can drop in the chat right now my email for the business, and we can send out this pre-pivot assessment tool. So for anyone that would like this pre-pivot assessment tool, you're going to go to breathe, BREATHE, capital planning at gmail.com. And just in the subject line, put pivot, and I will send you the assessment.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. And we'll get that link dropped in here. And then just a reminder to people that when you take the assessment, a high score doesn't mean that you go quit your job tomorrow and say, Elena and Julie told me to do that.
No, please don't tell anyone. Julie and Elena told me I should leave my job tomorrow. That's not the intention of the assessment. It's really to just give you a sense of awareness. I'm thinking about this, but let's raise our awareness to this. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, just let's break it down into segments, Elena. I think that if we break it into segments, it might be easier to like kind of comprehend exactly what we're wanting to talk about today.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with like pivoting in life in general. So I'm going to start with you, Elena.
Okay.
When was ever a time in your life when you had worked hard to create the life you wanted, and then felt like it really wasn't it?
Gosh, which time, right? When we say that. But honestly, for me, a big one, like this is really a big one. I was in corporate leadership. I had closed a business of 14 years, like my own business,
Yeah.
and completely jolted and went into a corporate environment, and I had never really worked for anyone before, but yet I utilized all my skills and went into corporate leadership. And I will have to tell you, that was a huge pivot, like working for yourself for like your whole life. And then now you have bosses, timelines, meetings, all the things. So that for me was really a hard time. That was a big pivot. But it was necessary at that time in my life. So, and that's just one of them, but that's a really big one in business. So for you, like, what do you think? What was the first sign? Or I'm sorry, like, for you, what would be a sign to say it's time to pivot?
Yeah, honestly, when you have like internal dread every day before your day starts, like, is it a level of unhappiness? And like, if it is, let's try to get to the root cause of that. Is it that the day to day just doesn't match who you are now? Because you've been working on yourself, you've done some development in self, maybe you've done some business development too. And like your life and your internal just doesn't feel aligned anymore. I think that that's a pretty good like awareness point and a little bit of an aha to say, hey, you know what? This feels like a disconnect. And maybe I need to dig a little deeper into this.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, I agree.
Yep.
So let me ask you, what's something that you once thought that you would actually want forever and then realized you'd outgrown it?
Yeah, I mean, me too in the career. Like a little bit, mine's the opposite of yours, where I was in big corporate and I loved big corporate. Like I talk about the cool people I got to work for all the time. And I really look up to them because I worked for two of the world's largest companies at one point in my career. And the things that I learned and the investment that they would make into someone like me that was managing a lot of dollars for them was profound. Like I got to do a lot of really cool things. I got to be coached by some of the top level coaches in the country. I got to be around peers that were super high level. And it was just you always just felt like you were leveling up. But I went through like a life transition, honestly, Elena, and my career and traveling the way that I was, be it with a single mom and a little guy at home, it just didn't match. And so it really got me thinking about, if I were to start my own business, what are some of the things that would bring me joy? And then I kind of took it from there. I did my due diligence. It took me over 6 months to figure out the right path for me. But eventually I went into business ownership, and it's where I've stayed for the last 7 years.
Yeah. So obviously it was a good decision for you, right? Right.
I'm really grateful that I did it.
Yeah. And me too. You know, the changes, it's all part of it. But I do have another question for you. So, and we've got some viewers, Miss Allegra on here. So say hey. But real quick, we sometimes think that changing our minds or like making that pivot or that decision means that like we did something wrong, or that original choice or decision was wrong. But what if it wasn't, right? What if like it was right for you, for that version of you? And I kind of feel that for me personally, that temporary corporate, those years there, it wasn't the wrong decision. It was what I had to do at that time. So what do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that can be very, very true for so many people. And for many years, like 20 years, that role that I had, and doing what you do in corporate when you're in that type of business development role that I was in, you what I call leapfrog. You go from one big company, you get recruited by the next big company. Maybe it's not the same category. Like when you have that skill set, you're sought after in many different areas. And I think the cool part about that is like it really fit at the time. When I was young, had a lot of energy, and also was newly married. And, my ex-husband at the time was building his business, and it kind of worked for us, right? Like I would take off and travel a couple days a week, come back, we get to spend time on the weekends, all of that. But then life can start to change. And so like going through a couple of life changes where, the divorce happened, and I also now had a little guy, like I had a 4-year-old, and that pace that I was on with that travel kind of was a perfect storm at the time when I had a little person who needed a lot of his mom's attention. Yeah. And I never, my whole reason for being honestly on the planet was to be a mom and to bring an incredible person to this earth plane. And so I felt really at conflict with I'm not being who I want to be. And I think this is common for a lot of us as women. I'm not being who I want to be because I don't have the time to spend that I would like to have. And when you're on a plane and you're physically not in the same state as your child, it is hard. Yeah. So for me, it just didn't feel organically like a good fit anymore. And I'm like, I'm not going to try to force a round thing into a square hole anymore. I'm going to make you at any time can make a decision to change your life. Yes. You are not you're not tied to any organization. Believe me, as soon as I left, they replaced me with somebody who was maybe even better than I was at the job. I don't know. I wish them all the best, but like, you'll be replaced. It's like, it's up to you to make the decision of, okay, what do I want to do? What inspires me? What fills my cup? And what would allow me to have some level of balance between being a really good mom and being a business owner?
Yeah. I think you make up some great points and that goes back to original. Are you choosing the pivot, or is life kind of choosing you?
So true. The second one is way harder.
Yeah. So let's then talk a little bit more about the career pivot. Like let's dive into that real quick. Sometimes our identity, and I know I can speak to this one, like sometimes our identity gets completely wrapped around what we do, and changing the careers that can lead to like being challenging, like who am I? Who am I anymore? And then that just kind of turns into like a whole nother thing that you're dealing with. But have you ever stayed in that professional situation longer? Like, and I know that you knew the exact time to make the change, but like staying in that longer than you should have because you were afraid of starting over, or because it's who you were and what you've always done. Like, have you ever been there? And what, like, how did you get through that when you knew the mom part was more important? How did you deal with the other piece?
I had a lot of support at the time, Elena. Like, I mean, I have an incredible family, and unfortunately, I've lost both of my parents now in this time. But back then, I had them, and they were both really healthy, very strong. And the really cool thing is, my dad reminded me of who he was, which kind of gave me hope, honestly, because I could look to his life, and I could look to my grandparents, my grandfather's lives, and my grandmother's life as examples of someone that made a decision, went out and made a major change in their career and was mega successful. So I had that right in front of me. And I also had people rooting for me that said, you can do this. And hey, by the way, you'd be incredible at this. My best friend, who was going through cancer at the time, really encouraging me to say, you don't know if you have a year left or the rest of your life left. How do you want to live your life? And when you are dealing with someone who's facing the end of their life, they're going to ask you questions that are going to challenge you. And she challenged me. And I'm so grateful that she and I reconnected in that time and space, because I feel like we both helped each other tremendously. But to answer your question, I think having that squad around me that believed in me. I also had a lot of naysayers. I have some other people around me that are more conservative, that are like, oh my gosh, why would you leave that incredible job? You've got an expense account, a company car, you travel all over the world for them, and like they invest in you. You have a stock options, like all the things, right? And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. But do you realize, like, in an hour from now, they could call me and tell me I need to get on a plane and go wherever, and I have to leave my little person. Like, I'm not in control of my time from, Monday to Friday, or sometimes Monday to Saturday.
Right.
And so for me, it came with a choice. There's choices that we make, and these choices come with consequences and responsibilities. And it is like, how do you want to set up your life as you move forward? So I weighed all of those variables, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. That's what a gift. What a gift that your friend was able to give you. That was like a divine timing right there.
Oh my gosh. So like, I know the hand of God was in the midst of that entire transition for both of us. Elena, when you think about what would you try professionally if you knew nobody would judge you for you starting something over? And I know, like, you're like, oh, are you talking to me? Like, I'm not afraid to start over.
Yeah, that cracks me up.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually doing it now. For me, if anybody's been living under a rock and not been looking at my page, but my newest, like, what career risk for me? I'm starting a brand new lifestyle brand. It's called Texas Heart Collection, and it is a total reflection of me. This, I was talking earlier with someone on a podcast, and, knowing that I work with small business owners and I help people really get clear on their tangible, what they're doing. I've spent all of my career helping other entrepreneurs, helping other small business owners. And so for me, taking this risk and building something simply for, I don't want to say myself, because of course it's a brand for women, but it's my brand. It's all me. It's a reflection of my roots and my heritage and my passions and everything. So that's a huge risk.
Yeah.
And I'm in the process of doing it now, but I'm actually showing all the bits and pieces. We don't even officially launch until October, but I'm showing through my personal page and my private group, the Founding Hearts, all the pieces, the behind the scenes, because I'm showing how I help people build brands. I'm showing it for myself, but the risk here, people could be like, what are you doing now? Or what is this? And where's this music? And what is this country? But you know what? It's who I've always been. And so for me, I feel the risk that I'm taking is open to judgment, opinions. People are going to love it or people are going to hate it. Well, at least if you hate it, then I know that it's not for you. But I have to say that I feel more alive and more just in my, even more confident to help my small business owners, because I'm showing them what happens when you do it. So that career, I'm in the process of it right now. And let me tell you, is it scary? Some days. Will I fail? Probably every day, but will there be successes? Will there be wins? Absolutely. So that part of it, I just feel like if you're in that process of a pivot, or if you're in that process of career change, go for it. And that brings me to wanting to ask a live poll. I know we've got some viewers on here. And if you're catching the replay, you can answer this and we'll still come back and chit chat with you. But here's a live poll that we have. What is stopping you from making the next pivots? And here's your options. A is money. You're telling yourself, I can't afford to change. Girl, I'm starting up my lifestyle brand and I didn't have no investor, right? So money could be one of them, okay? B, fear. What if I fail? right? So if you feel that that's something that's stopping you, drop that down. We can help you through that. C, other people. What will everyone think? Oh my gosh, I got so much to say on all of these, as I know you
Yeah,
do.
I
And
know.
then D would be uncertainty, that of I don't know what's next. So just if one of those hits you, drop the A, B, C, or D in the comments, and we'll see what everyone has.
Yeah. Just a reminder, A is fear, A is money, B is fear, C is other people's opinions, and D is just being uncertain.
Yeah.
You know what, Elena? This just is an epiphany that just struck me. Sometimes we say we're afraid of failure. What we're actually afraid of is being seen failing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you can just embrace that and step into that and be like, yes, I may fail, but guess what? You may succeed. And I wouldn't be sitting here today in my own office with my own clients and my whole business partner and my team of people out the door if I stayed stuck in, I don't want to be seen failing.
Yeah.
Well, there was times in the journey that we're going to get to later in our talk about, there are times where it'll feel dark and feel like you're failing, but it doesn't mean that there isn't success as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things, just real quick, I want to add is when you say, being seen failing, sometimes people just don't want to be seen starting at the bottom. And you start at the bottom. If you're starting something new, you're starting at the bottom. But I think some people just don't want to be seen having only one follower or two followers. And I'm there now, like starting something brand new. And yeah, sure, it doesn't feel good, but everybody's got to start at the bottom. So that's another thing.
Something that I was thinking about earlier that you said that like just piqued my interest. Is there a difference between quitting something that's hard and pivoting because it's no longer right for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Probably both. I do believe there is a difference. And for me, I'll just share this. I'm going to use my fitness studio as the example. I had my fitness studio for 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I attached my identity to it. I was the fitness instructor. I poured my literal blood, sweat, and tears into it.
Yep.
Every dime that I had, like it was my baby for 14 years. And I held on to it longer than I should have. Looking back now,
Yep.
I really sacrificed so much more than I needed personally because I didn't want to be seen quitting. I didn't want to feel like I was giving up. I didn't want to feel like I was defeated. It was that stubborn part of me that's like, no, I can keep going. I can keep going. So I was looking at it as failing because I just thought if I try harder, if I work harder, if I'm more innovative, if I push a little bit more, I can do this. Not realizing that life was pivoting me. Life was telling me, no, you need to like give your nervous system a break and your physical body a break. And that's when I went into corporate leadership. So I can say that transition, I was coming from both ways. I personally felt like a failure, but some people on the outside might have looked at me like, why are you trying to hold on to this so much? It's clear that it's time to let it go. I just didn't. And I think if I would have felt different about that pivot, I probably would have excelled in my corporate leadership so much faster,
Yeah, I do know, because sometimes we drag things from the one situation to the next, right? So that's great. Thank you, Elena, for sharing that perspective. I want to pivot a little bit into relationships. So we're going to talk about pivoting in relationships, which is something that's going to happen in the course of your lifetime. I don't care who you are.
Right. So, again, by choice or not.
It's going to pivot. So relationships, romantic, friendships, business, partnerships, family, all of different types of relationships. Sometimes the hardest pivot isn't leaving a person. It's changing how we participate in the relationship. That's a whole different conversation. you know, what's your perspective, Elena, on that?
Yeah. I agree 100% because sometimes the pivot isn't necessarily I'm leaving you,
Mm-hmm.
right? It might not be like I'm leaving you, but it sometimes it's I can't keep being this version of myself with you. And I think that's very different. We all grow every single day. I mean, think about seeds like outside. Everything's growing every single day. That's us. So I think those pivots, it's not always I'm leaving you. It's simply I can't, be this version of myself with you. So from that perspective, like, have you ever realized that a relationship worked for the old version of you, but not for the person who you were actually growing into and becoming?
Yeah, I've actually experienced this like real time in the last couple of years where, my life changed significantly and profoundly with carrying, the caregiver role that my brother and I played for my parents. And I kind of found out who was going to be on my team as I move forward as far as the friendships. Because I just realized that I just wasn't aligned. I started, it was me. I had changed. I had shifted a lot, Elena. I started to see life completely different. I started to pay attention to the internal clock that we're all on and realize that there's only so many summers we're going to have. There's only so many days we're going to have here. And I didn't feel aligned in some of these relationships. And, I released some relationships with a lot of love and light, but I was no longer aligned. And it was okay. It's nothing that anyone did. And sometimes that's really hard to make peace with because you can still really care a great deal for someone, but it can be just not a good fit anymore. And that's okay. It's okay. And I think you do yourself a disservice when you stay in a paradigm that no longer feels like it's honoring you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge. I agree with that 100%. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is a really tough question, Elena.
Oh, yay. Okay, bring it.
How do you know when a relationship needs to end versus when the relationship itself just needs to evolve?
Ew. I think, okay, so for it to end, I think that you have had to give yourself time to see if it's evolving. It like to me, I feel like there's always going to be a moment of evolvement before there's an ending.
Yeah.
So to me, I feel like if you feel you've given, if you feel you have had conversation, if you feel you have, attempted to evolve and see what it's transitioning to, and it still feels off, right? It's still not in alignment. Values might be way off. Then it's time to end. And kind of between personal and business, I want to share this because it's popping in my head. When I left my corporate position, I had really tried a lot of different things. That entrepreneur in me just wasn't able to breathe. That relationship, okay, so I look at the leadership position as the relationship that had to come to an end. I had to leave to give myself opportunity to grow and flourish. However, my relationships with the individuals didn't. I was able to be honest and upfront. So I think that's a huge example of the evolvement we all went through, but that part had to end.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes people fear making that end decision because they didn't give themselves the opportunity to see how can this really evolve. So I think it's a two-parter. Like, it has to go through this pathway before it definitely needs just an ending. It needs to be cut. So that's my answer on that one. But so for you, I want to ask you, like, have you ever had to change a boundary and had someone dislike the new version of you because of it?
Oh yeah. This has been this just came up actually recently, and I wasn't good with boundaries. The older version of me wasn't good with boundaries. I wouldn't say I was a people pleaser, but I would do an awful lot for people. And when my time got compressed over the last 3 years, and it became, I had to be very good with priorities. Like, what is the priority? Well, it was my caregiving role in my family, and it was providing revenue for my company. And being a good mom. Those were my top three, and being a good partner in my relationship. So like those were my things. And certain people I had to definitely, install some boundaries, and some people did not like it. They did not like it. And I'm like, this isn't personal. This is the way that I have to operate as I move forward. And I haven't come off of that boundary, because actually I feel that has served me in this new version of me as I'm evolving. Yeah.
Yeah. Good deal. I love that.
Yeah. Why do you think, Elena, though, sometimes those boundaries can make the people close to us uncomfortable?
I think because we're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're doing the same thing, they know what to expect. And so it works for them as well. And I think when you get to that point where, okay, this obviously isn't working for me, talking boundaries, or needing to make changes, I think it makes people uncomfortable because it's jacking with them, kind of, it's not what they're used to. That's not how they've always done it. People have that mentality of, well, this is how we've always done it, so this is how it's got to be. And when you start making changes, you're actually forcing people to have to face change. And that can be very uncomfortable for some people. And they're either going to be open to that evolvement with you, or it's just going to cause conflict. And I think, at that point, you have to ask yourself, how's this working for you? But I really think that's why it's uncomfortable for the people closest, because you're actually forcing someone who maybe wasn't looking to have to change anything. Now they're going to have to, because things around them, including you, are changing, are shifting. So that's an example of you're choosing a pivot, and for that person, life is pivoting for them. You're right. So it can be very uncomfortable.
And you'll hear this come from people, right? You've changed.
Yeah.
And the answer is yes, I have. And I don't say that arrogantly or with any malice or any weird feelings. It's just like, I'm different. Yeah. Like, and I'm being honest with you, I am different. And maybe this new version of me isn't aligned with the current version of you. That's okay. So I think that when we step into that, like, we start to see things, maybe that we didn't see before.
Yeah. And I agree. Totally. Like, yes, yes, I have changed, so who do you think would get access, right? Think about the 5 people that you spend the most emotional energy on. So for our listeners, do these relationships support who I'm becoming, or require me to keep being who I've been?
It's a really profound question. And feel free, like, if you ask for the pre-pivot assessment, if you want to drop any insight that you have from today's talk, that'd be a great way to drop and communicate with us. Do these relationships support who I'm becoming, or do they require me to be who I've always been? Like, if you want to share that with us, any insight that you've had today, that would be great. Yeah. Okay, Elena, here's the meaty part, the messy middle.
Let's get into the messy middle, right? So here's a part people don't put on Instagram, or, they're not in the highlight reels and all of that. You've left the old thing, but the new thing isn't quite working yet. Okay. Right. So if you're relating to this, drop a comment, let us know you're relating to this. So you've left you've left the old thing, but the new thing isn't quite working yet. Maybe you've changed careers, but you're not feeling successful yet. Maybe you ended the relationship, but you're feeling kind of lonely now. Maybe you started the business, but nobody's buying yet, right? You moved, but it doesn't feel like home yet. I mean, there's so many you know, examples that we could give you, but that messy middle, right? Talk about it, Julie.
Yeah, like people will panic in the middle, right? And I'm also a mom of a 20-year-old athlete, right? So who has just made a major change himself and transferred to a new team and a new state and all the things. And like, it's so normal to have some angst and some anxiety. Everything is new. You live at a new place, you have a new team, all the things. And I keep reminding him, you haven't made a wrong decision. Not that he's questioning it. He isn't. He's very excited. But you're new. It just means you're new here. And like, think of that as like an adventure. Like, you have so many new things to experience, new people to meet, so many new things, right? What do you think the biggest mistake, Elena, people make after a major pivot? Like, what is the mistake that a lot of people do?
Oh gosh. I think expect immediate results.
Yeah,
Is a big thing. I think people are too hard on themselves.
totally.
You know, because if well, first I think it depends on why they're making the pivot. But
Hmm.
if they're making this pivot and they think that life is going to just, you know, the heavens are going to open and everything's aligned and perfect now, I think the biggest mistake is almost doubting their decision
Hmm.
because they don't see the result they were expecting as fast as they were expecting it, and then they don't see it through, and that could lead to another pivot. And so the biggest mistake is expecting something so fast, because if they don't, they're almost going to start a pattern of starting again, hoping that that result shows up much faster instead of seeing it through. I think that that's a really big mistake in life, but in business also, is just thinking, okay, I'm doing this now, everyone's going to be excited for me, everybody's going to buy from me, and it's like crickets, and then they think I made the wrong choice. No,
Hmm.
no, give yourself some time. I think that's one of the mistakes.
Yeah.
So for you, Julie, like, how do you stop yourself, or whoever is watching, speak to the person, but how do you stop from running back to something familiar, right? Just because that new thing feels uncomfortable.
So for me, this is my magical answer. Everyone always wants to know my secret sauce. And I practice this on multiple levels in my relationships, like people can tell you, but also in my business activity, Elena. So the thing that will always calm you down is you can't just be like, okay, I pivoted, I opened my doors to my business. Where's my clients? Where's my money? It does not work like that. Or I made a change in the relationship dynamic and I'm expecting it to be perfect this week. It's not going to happen.
No.
It takes practice. So it takes actual activity of getting up every day and embodying who you said you wanted to be. You said you wanted this pivot. This pivot's going to require different activity from you, right?
Yeah.
Could have stayed the same, but
Yeah.
you chose to pivot. With that choice comes a responsibility to action. And if it's business, it's like, okay, how am I moving my business forward today? What is my daily win? If it's in a relationship, it's like, okay, I told myself I wasn't going to be a nag about this, or I wasn't going to bring that up again. And I promised the person, but I'm also promising myself.
Yeah.
So, like, you got to hold yourself accountable to what you said you wanted.
Yeah.
And I think activity will calm down it isn't working, the doubting Thomas. Well, it did. I mean, I've been doing this for 2 weeks. I should have some level of success.
That makes me laugh. 2 weeks.
Right? We've done enough businesses to know that that's literally impossible.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the answer to everything, honestly. Yep.
I agree.
What do you do, Elena, when you don't get proof that the pivot is going to work? Like, you're like doing it, and you're like, okay, I'm not seeing anything. What are some of the things that you do?
So for me, we've been talking pivot this whole time. I look at pivot as more flow. That's helped me, because instead of feeling like it's a jerk and a turn away,
Yeah.
I just I'm a Cancer baby, so everything for me is water and flow.
Flow.
So I kind of feel like, okay, if this isn't feeling like I thought, or if it's not going, I will kind of flow with it. So it doesn't mean I'm going to turn away from it, because obviously that idea or that vision or the goal or whatever it was that made you take that pivot in the first place, that's not by accident. And
Right.
I choose to feel like, okay, maybe, I took this direction. I'm trying. It's just not going the way that I thought. And I've tried again and again. I personally look at it as a flow. I'm not going to leave the idea, but I do have to kind of come at it from a different angle. I have to almost readjust the lens and look at it from a different perspective. And that has seemed to help me quite a bit, because I don't turn away from it, but you have to kind of flow with, maybe it's wanting to go a little somewhere different. So don't isolate it. Don't throw it away. Evolve with it. And that's, maybe you've grown and you don't realize. So that original idea, it's just not working and you might not know why. Stay in flow. That's where I would say pivot and flow kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So for me, we've got, I think we have a couple more people. I want to ask our audience who is tuning in, or if you're catching the replay, are you actually missing your old life, or are you just missing the certainty you had in it? That's a profound question.
Yeah.
Because that takes us back to the creatures of habit, right? So some of us might miss that old life, but are we really missing the old life, or are we just missing that we knew what to expect? So that brings us to our next part, Julie.
Yeah, it kind of leads me to a really profound conversation my business partner and I had like 7 years ago, like when I first started. And I kept saying, you know what, if this doesn't work out, I'm just going back to so-and-so. And he's like, you know when this will work? When you burn the bridges at the shore, when you burn the boats at the beach.
Yes.
When you say, regardless, I'm committed to this and this is going to work. And like, that was pretty profound. I just wanted to share that because that definitely shifted my mindset. And I was like, okay, option B is no longer an option.
Yes.
And how am I going to operate now? Because this is it. And so it really did change for me. We want to finish up the pivot challenge with a challenge. So we're finishing up by saying, not a change for your entire life by tomorrow challenge. The best pivots often come with one honest decision, right? Where you make a decision. Complete this sentence in your head. If I were completely honest with myself, I know it's time to blank.
That's a good sentence. If I were completely honest with myself, I know it's time to blank. Wow. And if you're answering, don't edit it. Don't make it practical. Don't worry about, the how. Just finish that sentence, because I think sometimes we tend to do that. And and ask yourself now, what's the smallest pivot, okay, I could make in the next 7 days? I'm all about building. So to me, you can build brick by brick by brick. So instead of editing the big change, look at it as what's the very next small thing that I could do. Okay. So maybe it's actually just making that phone call. Maybe it's updating a resume. I'm going to put this out there. People might be surprised to know that I still work on updating my resume. I always have a resume.
Mine's
going.
Always ready to go, girl.
Yeah. Like, I just keep adding more shit to it. So it's like, update the resume, book that appointment, have the conversation. Sometimes it just blurts out of you because you've been packing it down so long, but have the conversation, set the boundary, take time to research the idea. Here's a side note. I actually just gave my son that assignment not too long ago. I could tell he was in his head too much. And I said, research, just look into some of these things ahead of time, and it stops the overwhelm. But maybe you need to ask for the opportunity, create that business plan. Maybe you're the only one in your family that has ever had the idea to start a business of their own. Right. They might think you're crazy. Create the business plan. just do it for yourself if you need to, right? Just ask. Even saying no to something could lead you to the yes that you've been waiting for. So the main thing is what's that small thing, that small pivot that you could do, like starting today.
And you know what? To your point, pivots do not have to be dramatic to be very powerful. Sometimes a 2-degree change can change your entire trajectory. So I personally have experienced that. You know, as we get ready to close, there's a call to action here. You know, pivoting doesn't automatically mean your old life was a mistake. Like your life fit perfectly for the version of you at that time, right? We've said that earlier. Whether it's your career, your relationship, a dream that wasn't necessarily a mistake, right? Maybe it served its purpose at the time. Maybe you learned a lot from that. Maybe it prepared you for who you are today, right? And maybe you're simply someone new. Like you have just evolved over time. Becoming someone new sometimes requires making decisions of your old self would never have made. Right. So like this new version of you, there may be a chance for you to be brave. So final audience question, what is your next pivot and what could become possible if you stop being afraid to make it?
And I love that question. We could have a whole nother show just on that what's next, because to me, I feel like we here today are both proof of kind of letting go of that what if fear and just doing it, right? So so for those that are tuning in and wanting to know more about the assessment, Julie's your girl to ask. She's put together this amazing assessment, but take that full pre-pivot assessment because it will help you explore fulfillment, energy drains. Okay, that's a big one. And I actually am going to pause here a minute because the energy drains for me are huge. I'm an empath. I take everything in. I carry everyone's energy. And I used to feel bad about saying, I need alone time. I need quiet time. I need alone time. I need downtime, because if I do not have that, my tank runs empty and you get a side of Elena that most people don't see and I don't like to get there. So you even have to evaluate, where are your energy drains? Like fear and resistance. You'll be able to see where fear and resistance is in this pre-pivot assessment. Career alignment, relationship alignment, financial readiness. Girl, that's all your subject. That ain't me. I'm getting better though, so everybody knows, you know. But identity, confidence, it'll give you your pivot readiness score. And again, these are, when we talked earlier about the pivot that you're choosing or the pivot that life is making you go through, sometimes you're gonna have to. So why not take this assessment and kind of see where you are so that you can make the pivot an enjoyable experience instead of something that you're afraid to. So Julie, why don't you talk on that?
Yeah, so just a reminder to everyone, and Elena and I are going to drop this in the show notes on the YouTube channel. You're just going to reach out to me and my team at Breathe, BREATHE capitalplanning.com @gmail.com. I'm sorry, @gmail.com is our main email. And you can just simply ask in the subject line for the pivot assessment and we'll send it right out to you. If you have any questions about it, you can also email me and the team back. But don't use the score to judge yourself, please. That's not the intention of this. It's to help you start a conversation with yourself. And you don't need to have everything figured out immediately. Like, this is an evolution. Sometimes you just need to take the first step, right? And you know what, Elena? Here's to the next chapter.
And here's to mastering and going with the flow.
Exactly. Here's to the art of the pivot.
To the art of the pivot. I love it. I love it, Julie. So, you know, this has been an amazing conversation. And I think, honestly, one that, as we talk about this version of me that evolves, especially when life has hit you. I love that you opened up your show to bring this conversation to the table, because we're all in pivot at some point or another. And for those of us that have gone through it enough that it's not, we actually are excited about it, we need to really help those that it might not be so fun.
Yeah, it may be really hard. It can be. There can be a lot of variables that lead to that strife, right? Yes. There's so many different things, so many different reasons why. Elena, do we have any questions before we kind of sign off? Is there any questions?
Well, we have Denise on here say, I try to remind myself that all the time that I can't figure it all out, right? Rome was not created in one day. Right. So that's good
insight, Denise. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Judy said research is so important and pivoting is part of life's growth.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you want to share maybe a glimpse at what people might expect if they do go to take the pre-pivot assessment?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
We have a few minutes left.
Yeah, it is. Let me go back to where our assessment tool is. Okay, so it's a mini pre-pivot assessment. It's going to ask you 7 questions, and you are going to get a point for each statement that feels true. So, do you want me to ask the question? Should I share the question?
Yeah. Okay. I think maybe if people have an idea that it might not feel so intimidating for them to actually reach out and get the link.
Sure. So, number 1, something that used to excite you that now feels heavy. You know, you give yourself a point if that is true. Question number 2, I find myself fantasizing about a different version of my life. Number 3, I'm staying somewhere mostly because it's familiar. I know something needs to change, but I keep waiting for the right time. That's so, oh my gosh, I hear that a lot. Yeah. I've been ignoring an idea, an opportunity, a conversation I need to have, or a decision that keeps resurfacing. You're ignoring it. Number 6 is fear of disappointing someone is influencing my decision to stay where I am. And number 7, the person I am becoming no longer fits comfortably inside the life that I've now created. There's a scale that you're going to get. So 0 to 2 points, so for every thing you said yes to any of these questions, you get a point. You're in the stirring stage, which means something may be changing. Don't force it. Just start paying attention. It's just raising your awareness. 3 to 5 is you're at a crossroads. You're probably not imagining it. Something is asking for your attention, and you should try to tap in deeper to that. And 6 to 7 is the pivot zone. You need to stop asking whether something needs to change and start asking what needs to change. So this can help you quite a bit to get like a little bit more clear. Is this pivot, or is this just a little bit of angst? So yeah.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. I think that is definitely something that people should look into. So we are going to wrap up this episode in this series that we're doing together, and people can find your playlist on the Prospera TV Network YouTube channel. They can go to Divine Abundance and actually see every show that you've ever had, and to know that we will be tuning in live throughout the rest of the series.
Yeah, I'm excited. Elena and I are on a bi-weekly series right now and really excited about it. If you have any feedback for us, feel free to drop the comments. When you send an email for your pivot assessment, feel free to share any feedback that you'd like. But we're so grateful that you were here with us today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Elena.
You got purpose, you got fire. Here's the spark that lifts you higher. You were made for joy, made for more. It's time to walk through heaven's door. The world is yours, take your place. Every dream aligned with grace. Overflow is your reward. Walk it out, abundance is yours.